Bo Tiffany in the 35.
Ryan Johnson getting a big push on the
Lap gets set by Ryan Perrone. And there is Rideout sideways entering pit road.
Green flag is out. We're underway from Alabama.
You're going to see that, yeah, just got down too low.
Spencer Brown has a shot at the win, but Luke Smith is going to win barely at the line.
Checker flag waves. Daniel Eberhardt wins the cash money race for Rolling Thunder.
Make it through the mess. Who's going to win this $300? It looks to be Michael Miller, the winner of $300 at the Speed Designs 212.
There's plenty of debate over what constitutes the heyday of NASCAR. And one thing you could argue for the late 90s and early 2000s is that it saw the rise of the NASCAR superstar. Legends were born and history was made in a lot of ways in this era. So it's time to bring it all back to life virtually as we get ready to watch the Rolling Thunder Series Tailgaters 225. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Robert Covey. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Daytona is the traditional season opener for NASCAR, so naturally we'd kick things off here. Let's take a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Daytona International Speedway. This track began life after Bill France Sr. realized the Daytona Beach road course had outgrown itself. With ambitious plans and the blessing of the city officials, he built what would become the very first super speedway in NASCAR history. At 2.5 miles and with 31 degrees of banking, stock cars easily reach speeds of around 200 miles per hour. Pretty much every car can take the course flat out. This makes for one of the most unique styles of racing motorsports has ever seen. The slipstream allows drivers to stay with one another so easily that it becomes less about the speeds each driver can reach and more about the strategy of racing in a pack. Bump drafting is a technique in which the car behind actually pushes the car in front so that both are able to reach higher speeds. And side drafting is another in which the drivers use the air off the sides of their cars to slow their opponents down. Staying out of trouble is always a difficult aspect of superspeedway racing, and it's not uncommon to see drivers intentionally move to the back of the pack to avoid the chaos. In fact, the high speeds make large wrecks so hard to avoid that the term "the big one" has become commonplace to refer to the almost inevitable multi-car pileups the circuit is known for. Also, entering pit lane is its own skill, which requires practice in order to slow the car up as quickly and safely as possible. Keeping the car clean and in contention is the main goal for much of the event. Then the final few laps, it's a race to the line with any alliances usually dissolving and the driver's urge to win taking over. With it being home to one of the world's most famous races, the Daytona 500, fans from around the globe flock to this landmark circuit. Just like the cars on it, the Daytona International Speedway shows no signs of slowing down. Well, there you see a little bit about Daytona, and, well, this is the one that really revolutionized NASCAR-style racing. Obviously, it had been popular up to this stage when it was built in the 50s, but this completely changed the game. 31 degrees of banking around 2.5 miles. It was the biggest, fastest thing ever built. Wasn't the first 2.5 mile oval, with Indianapolis obviously predating it by some measure, but that's a much flatter rectangle instead of what we have with this trioval down here in Daytona Beach. So it's all about the pack racing. And if you're not familiar with this style of racing, well, first of all, welcome, and you're in for a treat. This is certainly very unique to this style of motorsport, and it's going to be fun to watch, especially with these older style cars out here. Now, one thing we do want to mention, make sure and check out, they have an awesome podcast about this series. You can check it over on twitch.tv/Greg Dreiss, and that's the Burn 'em Down podcast. So I assume they'll be having more about that here up soon. And don't forget, if you like what you see, you can go over to their website. We've got a link in the YouTube description. Go check it out and sign up, and you too can be racing out with all of these wonderful folks. But these folks are currently now heading off into the qualifying, so we'll go over the race details real quickly. 1 out of 20, and they will have an all-star race in there as well, so we'll see 21 races total, but 20 rounds in the championship. 90 laps for tonight. As I mentioned, this is in the older NASCAR Gen 4 cars here on iRacing, so we're throwing it back a couple decades. It is fixed setup, so nobody has to worry about trying to find pace in terms of setting up the car. It's all about getting in and getting up to speed, which is a lot easier here at Daytona. And they have no spare car if they wind up getting damaged. So you can't exactly be foolish with your moves out there. If you wind up caught up in the big one, you're not likely to be competitive for the remainder of the race. Also, limited tire sets, 3 total, which means maximum 2 4-tire pit stops, or you could have a couple 2-tire pit stops if you wanted to try and extend it. We'll see if anybody tries to play that game, as well as a 1 green, white checkered attempt at the end if we find ourselves going into yellow close to the end of the race. Well, Robert, with the drivers getting ready to qualify, and again, for our viewers that aren't as familiar, this is such a unique style of qualifying, even on its own. It's kind of has its own idiosyncrasies compared to most other styles of qualifying.
Yeah, it's all in how you get around the track here, how much speed you can gain, and how much pace you can get before you reach that start-finish line to go in for your quali lap. You want to stay really, really high and then just drop the car as clean as possible. Get your maximum speed getting into the corners.
We can
see here, Bo, he's trying to stay on that yellow line, but you don't want to be right on it. You'll bleed a little bit too much speed with the weight of these cars, but so far he's looking pretty good for his lap.
All right, so this might be one of our first times as the 35 crosses, and it looks like Seth Reed is right with him, but Tiffany is your fastest car provisionally. Still waiting on a lot of them to qualify, and they only have 5 minutes, so these 2 laps do take up the majority of those 5 minutes, and you can't dilly-dally. You got to get out there and take advantage of it. Now, Darwin Hansen up at the top spot, just ahead of Bo Tiffany, but wonder if that second lap is really the one that you're going to be aiming for here, Rob.
I haven't had a lot of experience qualifying with these cars, but if it's anything like any other normal, you got to get that first lap through, because if you don't get that entry right into turn 1, you're actually going to go slower on your second lap.
Interesting. So will we get improvement here from Tiffany crossing the line? He does at a 48.1, 2/10 faster, but Seth Reed also, again, improving and dropping the time further. We're still waiting on Mogard, Gagliano, Crump, and Williams to set a time, but Manning now jumps up into the 3rd position. But how important will the qualifying position be, especially with just over 20 cars here, Robert? Is it going to be easy to move up to the front, or do you want to be out of the chaos?
It's Daytona. You want to be out of the chaos. If you're up front, you're happy. If you're 3rd row back, you're not very happy to be there, but you need to be patient. This is 90 laps. They're going to have a couple of pit stops, and pushing with these cars, from what I've seen in practice, can be extremely scary.
Yeah, so maybe they don't want to be in the midst of that pack as Crump goes up to 15th. Not a very good lap for him, but Michael Larch is now onto the front row with his 48.070. Nice run there from the number 2.
Yeah, look at that. Just such a small margin between the two of them.
Got Williams here. He's going to cross the line, and Trevor puts in a 48.597. Definitely not that great there. He's down to 16th, but that's only his first lap. It did seem a few drivers were much quicker on that second time around as we hop on board now with the number 1 car. Still waiting on Maines and Robinson to set a time. Eberhardt and Jones have not put themselves out on track, so I suspect they are going to be starting from the back intentionally. Eberhardt definitely very experienced on super speedways, so he probably knows what he's doing in this situation. As you see Williams continue to hug that bottom line here, Robert. And I am showing him going much quicker on this second lap. I think he's going to go a lot faster now.
Well, and I think they are approaching it the right way. They're using the first lap all the way around the outside of the track. Don't bleed off a lot of speed. Don't do a lot on your tires, and then come in that second lap and drop it right down on that yellow line. And it's definitely improving them by 1/2 tenths.
Yeah, he goes up to 6 with that one, but that is it for our qualifying. It's over, and we had most everybody put a time in, with Seth Reed taking the pole position for this first round. Scott Crump will be starting to his outside. Michael Larch will be in P3, and Dean Gagliano will be in 4th. Matthew Molnar starts in the 5th position. We talked about Trevor as we followed him across the line. He'll be on the outside of row 3. Bo Tiffany is going to be in 7th, followed by Jacob Manning in 8th, and Drew Ballesteros in the 9th position. Randall Nickel will start in 10th. Robert, what do the next 10 on the field look like?
Well, at row 6, at 11th, we've got Darwin Hanson alongside Jordan Barub for 12th. We've got 13th is Jared Mogard with Brenton Barker. We've got Jason Tamer in 16th with Ryan M. Johnson on his inside in 15th. Then we've got row 9, we've got Lane Doyle and Joshua Sus. And in row 10, we have Luke Smith and Jason Maines.
Then we have our 3 drivers that failed to set a time. Daniel Eberhardt will be starting 21st, with Dylan Jones in at 22nd and Matthew Robinson in 23rd. Drivers now have a 5-minute warm-up session, and they have a drivers meeting right now, so that's why we're not seeing anybody out on the track currently. So they're all just kind of waiting and listening to hear what's expected of them with the first race of the season. And as you'd expect with it being nighttime, it's nice and cool out with a little bit of wind. With this being the start of the season and a new series as well, we don't know, Robert, how many of these drivers are familiar with one another. How important do you think it's going to be to have that familiarity, especially in this style of racing?
Well, with these cars, and I mean, if you get a really good side look at these cars, they have a really rounded nose, really low to the ground, and the rear end has nothing underneath it in the back. So you got to be really careful, even if you do know the driver in front of you. I think this will be a feeling out race. You might see guys push a little, see what they can do, see what they can get away with, try and find a driver that they can match with for the season, and just feel it out and see where they end up.
Hopefully on the lead lap at the least out here. We'll see if we get a lot of cautions or not, as the drivers will have to try and hold on to that lead pack, and if they don't get any yellows, then they're going to be in trouble, no doubt. As there you can see a little bit of this Gen 4 if you are not familiar with this older style of NASCAR stock car, ready to go here for round 1 of the Rolling Thunder Racing Series. Now, if you want to keep track of your favorite driver, and we don't have them on screen, don't forget to check out GSRC.tv. We'll have live timing and scoring over there so that you can watch and track anybody that you want at all times during the race. 2 minutes left to go in this warm-up. Only a handful of cars have jumped out there, so it looks like most everybody else feels like they've gotten rid of the butterflies. Rob, how would you feel coming into this? Would you feel excited or nervous about coming in with a bunch of new folds?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, I'd be excited because, I mean, in all honesty, just about everybody has run Daytona. Everybody knows how to pack race at Daytona. It's always the car that kind of throws you off as to what car you're driving. So, again, I think they're going to really use this practice, see who they can run with. Some guys are going to get out and just see what the car does when somebody's right up under his tail, like the 29 is here. It's just these guys they have to have faith in each other and they have to trust each other. But I think they're, from what I've seen from practice, we're going to see some really good close racing.
Definitely. They put a little bit of time into specifically trying to get a nice little pack together at one point to get some practice in there. And you can see they're doing that again here with about 4 of the cars out there getting some time together during the last little warm-up. Should be ticking over in just under a minute now. So who will be able to take Daytona and get the maiden win in the Rolling Thunder Racing Series here with the Tailgaters 225. And will they be celebrating for the rest of the season afterwards? Because this can throw up some unusual winners sometimes. So whoever wins today might not be your driver in the hunt for the championship later on, Rob.
No, that's the thing about the first race of the season. You want to be there. You want to get the top of the points because you don't know how the rest of the season goes. And if you fall behind at the beginning of the season, it's always a little bit of a crusher. So yeah, we're probably going to see some there's a great view there of just how much you can stick the nose underneath the rear end of these cars. And I think some guys are going to try it, and it may not go well for them.
Yeah, certainly. As the clock ticks over in the World Center of Racing is getting ready for round 1 here in just a few seconds' time as the cars will start to grid down on pit lane. They'll get 1 pace lap to try and warm up, and then we'll be off and running. They get a little bit of time here to try and grid up. Obviously, don't have to worry about trying to change the setup of the car since it's all fixed. So everybody just has to mentally prepare themselves, plop the car on the grid, and follow the pace truck around, interestingly, instead of the pace car for this one lone pace lap to get going. There you can see them lined up down on pit lane here with the night racing on Daytona, getting ready to take part. We've got a full season up ahead. The next one going to be Vegas, and that'll be in a week's time when they'll come back for that one. Like I said, very different from what we'll see here today, and could bring out different big faces up at the front running fast in this classic car. But we'll have to wait until we get to there, as it does look like we've got everybody on the grid and they're getting ready to take off behind the pace truck. And
I really like that idea of the pace truck. I mean, it doesn't get enough. It's actually, I really like that idea, saying, you know what, let's put the truck out there for a change.
Absolutely. Usually used in the dirt side of things, both on dirt road and dirt oval. But some people have elected to use it. You can use any of the pace cars that you want on iRacing, and I think they're up to 4 different ones. Yeah, 4 different ones that you can choose from, between the old Mustang, the Porsche, the truck here, and then, of course, I believe they've got the sedan, the nondescript sedan in their iRacing pace car. It used to be, for those that haven't been around for a long time, I don't know if you knew this, Robert, it used to be the Solstice was the pace car way, way back, even before I joined in 2010.
Okay, I'm not going to show my age. How's that?
So you've been around on iRacing even longer than that, I take it?
Yeah, I have. I remember that, and like I said, it's like the truck never gets enough looks at it. So it's nice to see them do something a little bit different. The whole race is a little different, but they are getting ready to go green here. So let's sit back and see what they got.
Absolutely. In fact, they're already up to turn 3 here, just riding along at pace speed at a steady 70 miles per hour before that truck's going to peel off and release them. And then we'll get our first glimpses of what the racing's going to be like here in the Rolling Thunder Racing Series. Will they be able to keep it clean here at the start and get this underway, or will people be a little bit too anxious to try and make some moves? I'm sure that we're hoping for the former and not the latter. As we come up to the pit entry now, Seth Reed's going to have control once that pace truck pulls off into pit lane. There it goes. Reed in the 51 has to wait for the start zone. That's the little Geico thing that you see there, and the green flag is out, and he's on it immediately as they slowly wind up to speed. Look for speeds of over 200 miles an hour here.
Yeah, really good start by everybody. Everybody's just got on it really good. It takes these cars a little bit to get up to speed. So, coming around on the second lap, these cars should really be up to full pace all the way up through the gears. Some of them are getting a little squirrely here already.
Yeah, seeing a little bit of weaving, but not really that bad at this stage. Looks like most are trying to stay in line, but Michael Larch is going to decide to move up high. He'll get a push from Crump, and that'll move him into the lead, and immediately dips Scott and ducks down back in front of Seth Reed. So he got one he wanted, and he doesn't need any more of his cohort.
Yeah, I think they're just going to get, most of them are just going to get settled in here and get what they need, figure out what they've got, and work their way through the field once they would get settled into these first few laps.
Yeah, like you said, starting to get fully up to speed now, 197 miles an hour up towards the front as we look back from Larch. Back on those following, bottom line, definitely looking like it's moving forward a little quicker than the top side, at least for now, but it's early days in the race. I was keeping an eye on Eberhardt, and I know I keep mentioning him, but that's because he actually both has a win and a second place in the non-championship money races that this league holds during Thursday nights. So he's clearly a driver to watch out for and is quite fast on super speedways, but he's hanging out literally at the very back currently as we now watch from his perspective.
Well, and that can be a safe play. It can be a scary play. I'm watching these, you see these guys in the front. They're moving around a little bit. They're really pushing the front ends underneath the rear of the car. So I think they're still kind of feeling him out, and he's just sitting back there going, okay, I'll let these guys wreck, and I'll move myself forward.
Yep, trying to just kind of ease back, watch, and see what happens. As long as he doesn't lose touch with them, then he should be okay. Larch in the 2, still leading, but it looks like Reed's moved up top. Not happy to play second fiddle to that yellow and white machine as they get ready to complete lap 3 now. Second line does look like it's starting to move a little.
Yeah, I think that they're getting the feel of the car. They've got the car up to speed. Now they just need to figure out the guy in front of them and how he's going to run and what line he's going to run.
Absolutely. Top 4 rows looking like they're pretty well stacked up, although the 7 going to jump down to the bottom. I think that's the 7. No, that's the one of Williams, or at least he tried to, and then the hole closed before he could actually get it in there. Watching from Gagliano, which is just in front of the 1 car. There you can see it's just about half of an opening now, and he doesn't quite have enough to try and sneak in there.
Yeah, just like with anyone others, you got to make sure you got enough room, because if you don't, you're going to end up being the big one, or you're going to end up not having a good car for the rest of the race.
Something I imagine is quite different to a lot of other styles of racing here on iRacing. Do you think this is something where on these super speedways, Robert, where if you have a real life spotter, someone to actually call you through, is that more of an advantage using the iRacing spotter?
Well, I mean, the biggest advantage to having yourself a live spotter is they're looking at the overhead view like you're seeing now, and they can tell you, okay, he's a car length away. He's coming on your quarter panel. Move over, get in front of him, grab that line. Unfortunately, that's not something that the iRacing spotter will give you. So definitely an advantage to have a live spotter.
So who's got a team out with them here today to try and make this a better race for themselves? As the 51 drops back a little bit, and it does look like the 1 was finally able to get down to the low line. Got a car slow. Brenton Barker, looks like maybe he started from pit lane and had a connection issue, because I see him multiple laps down already. So that's going to be unfortunate for him. He'll have to hope for that caution to get a lucky dog.
Yeah, and he's going to need a couple of them, and that's a devastating way to start your season. But I mean, it happens to the best of us, and I'm sure we're going to see him in the next round for sure.
Yeah, hopefully this doesn't discourage him at all there, as Larch now sees Reed up alongside and pulling ahead slightly before they swing it back into turn 1. So far, nice clean racing here by lap 7 out of 90. Haven't seen anything too wild. So you've mentioned the drivers moving around a little bit, but for the most part, it looks like everybody's kind of giving each other space.
Yeah, I think, like you said, like we were saying, this is the first race of the season. Probably not all these drivers know each other, and I think right now they're just feeling each other out because they're leaving a bit of a gap between. They're not really doing a heavy drafting, but I definitely expect to see that to change once the laps start winding down in this race.
Yeah, now's not the time to try and do anything crazy. And everybody knows it, so that's a really good sign that we've got some good experienced drivers out here that are trying to play the long game. And there you can see from above the main pack all still together. Let's see, has anybody actually dropped off? It looks like no. It looks like we still have 22 cars all clumped together, and then Barker unfortunately has lost them, but well, that's sort of a moot point in his case.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe he slid up and grabbed the wall, or did he start from the pit? I'd really like to know what happened to him to be that many laps down and be so slow and not be able to grab that draft.
Yeah, he did start from the pits. He had unfortunately lost connection right as the race was starting, so he had to exit out and then start from pit lane multiple laps down. So that's what's cost him, at least right now, and especially with how clean it's looking up to this point. It's not looking hopeful that he's going to be able to use those lucky dogs to get back in it very soon. You were talking a lot about the pit stop predictions as well, Rob. How far do you think they can go if they keep staying green?
Well, if they go green, they probably should be able to get anywhere from 35 to 38 laps before they really need to start worrying. If they go full green, we're going to probably start seeing pit stops probably around between lap 32, lap 35. Obviously, that's going to change if somebody gets aggressive when we end up with a caution. But right now, yeah, probably 32 to 35 laps. And then it's going to be all about, do you take 2 tires? Do you take 4 tires? Do you even bother taking tires? What kind of wear is on these tires and these cars, which unfortunately I'm not sure of at this point.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch and see, especially with the cool temperatures. Is it enough that they really have no worries trying to keep them underneath them around a track like this, where it's a lot less about the tire wear typically, but sometimes weird things do happen, especially with this not being the next-gen car, which we have quite a bit of information on. And this car could throw us a few curveballs throughout the season, no doubt. Leading another lap there for Seth Reed on the high side over Larch. Those two have been trading back and forth. Clearly, they're happy up at the front, but I will say that Molnar and Crump behind them, Rob, they haven't really been trying to make moves to jump around them and leave them. So they might be just as content to be the pusher here.
Yeah, it looks like the 4 of them are running really well together. They may know each other. This may be a rollover from somewhere else, but they're all just kind of, you notice there's not a lot of movement. They're staying pretty close to the rear end, whereas, row 3, row 4 behind them, there's a lot of movement in the cars, not really running a direct line, which is going to hurt them in the long run because they're just going to end up slowly losing that draft or have to come up and really get on the binders because they've just left too much space.
They are just about a third of the way through this first stint now. Still no signs of any caution quite yet. The 2 wide that we were talking about kind of dissipates somewhere around 14th position. From there on down, it's mostly single file, although you can see a couple cars kind of sitting out of line, strangely. Not sure why. That looks to be Dylan Jones, who's just riding up on the top side. He's not losing them. I'm not sure why he's kind of hanging out there, sort of out of line. Top group still staying 2 by 2 all the way down to 12th or 13th or so.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on in the back there, why he's not running in the line, but he's definitely hurting himself. And but you can see everybody else in the back has decided, you know what, we're going to line this up. If we're going to get anywhere, we can't lose this draft.
Playing the waiting game and just letting the race come to them at this stage. I'm sure not as exciting for some. Ooh, that looked like a bit of a sketchy push there from the 29 of Molnar. He was trying to get up to Larch, and for a second I was a little bit worried that he was going to turn him.
Yeah, being a little bit of wiggling, but nothing too major. Some of them are wiggling a little bit. Probably still feeling out the car, how to enter the corner with the car.
We have to... Go ahead.
I was going to say, and as always, the trial was probably the scariest part of Daytona.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to push somebody. Would not recommend it in these cars from what we've witnessed so far. But I was about to say, obviously, slightly older technology than what they've got in the next-gen machines. So these are even more rudimentary, if you can imagine, considering NASCAR has been all about keeping the cars very basic for decades, honestly, until just recently when they really brought in a lot of more modern tech into these things. So these are basically a very bare bones racing machine, very raw racing machine that these drivers are dealing with out there, all about what you can do behind the wheel.
Yeah, these cars are, unlike the new next gen, and these cars are designed to use the wing to keep the rear end on the ground. And these, I'm sure we're going to see some rear ends wiggling a little bit more when we come up near the end of the tire stint. Again, depending on how these tires wear on these cars.
Still have all 22 hanging on to the slipstream. Eberhard continues to be the last on the field in the number 90. Very happy to sit and wait back there as they fly off of turn 4 down towards the tri-oval once again. For a brief while, Reed was falling behind Larch by a couple spots, but the high side has once again returned and found some momentum here on this lap. So bit of an ebb and flow. Probably, I would imagine, Robert, very much a lot of these drivers taking mental notes for later on what works and what doesn't.
Well, at that, and it's definitely, who's going to be your friend, and who do you like as your friend? So, yeah, Reed's been going really good here. When the four of them lock right up bumpers, they can run pretty well, but then they have to back out just a little bit because I think the rear end just gets a little bit too squirrely. Or we could even be dealing with engine temperatures here with these cars.
So you're telling me this is basically gym class for grown-ups. You want to be picked by the right team.
Oh, 100%. You've got to, if you get somebody that you can work with and they're willing to work with you, then you can move far, you can move up, and you can get around the other cars.
On the backstretch now, as it looks like the 51 continues to gain on the backstretch and through the tri-oval, really getting up alongside that yellow and white number 2. But then kind of runs out of speed. They are really booking it up to 2:03 by the end of the back stretch, one of the fastest parts on the track right there. So these things are hauling the mail.
Well, and you can see when they move forward and when they lose it. When they lock right up, like he's right on the 51's bumper now, and you can see he got a nice run into the corner. The 29 is going to back off a little bit there, but once they come back into the straight, he's going to get right up underneath them, and you're going to see them pull forward. Just because of the way the aerodynamics work on this car and that rear end being so high up in the air with nothing underneath it.
Didn't quite reach 2:03 this time, did Seth Reed, but he definitely got another good push up to 201 miles an hour down along there. This is among the restrictor plate days of these cars as well, so slightly different the way they work to modern times, or if you've raced the old 87 Cup cars, very different to those which were unrestricted and just raw behemoths out on this track. Still circulating, and now we're past the just about past the second third of this first stint, and still haven't seen a whole lot of movement. Even in the back of the pack there, farther down the line, Robert, I'm not seeing anybody really jump around to try and position themselves. Everybody just looks like they don't really care to try and upset the apple cart.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, like you said, it's a 90 lap. We've got at least 2 pit stops minimum. So, yeah, I mean, and they have no spare car. So that's got to be in everybody's mind as well, saying, look, I make a mistake. I'm not just killing myself and killing somebody else. There are no spare cars. We're out, we're out.
So, yeah, I think you're right. Just playing it cool, playing it smart for now. And that means, unfortunately for us, that we're not seeing a whole lot happening except just everybody ticking off those laps. But we are seeing some interesting stuff between them, like I said, with the ebb and the flow between the two rows. And certainly, definitely stick around, because if we do stay green, and those green flag pit stops come, we heard about it in the track guide, Rob. That's green flag pit stops is a skill on its own at Daytona.
Yeah, I've been known to lock them up. I've been known to miss it. It's really hard to try and get in there with speed and end up getting a speeding on pit road, or even just losing control of the car and getting the wall. It's going to be really interesting to see how they come down and if they split it up.
Is that already Barker? It is. Barker's already going to get lapped again. He was on his own, but I'm shocked that he's falling back this quickly. I guess he is about 3 seconds a lap slower than these other cars. So, no, they're just.
Well, you'll have to see if he can. Ooh, he just scraped the wall.
Get out of it.
That's not going to help his cause.
No, it will not. Oof.
Because these cars take a little while to get up to speed. So you imagine he's in top gear there. So once you slip the wall, he's probably going to end up falling back out of the pack in the draft again, unfortunately for him.
He's trying to tuck in behind, and he is going to get in behind Dylan Jones. So actually, it looks like he's going to catch them, but he's still not going to be able to do much other than sit 6 laps down and just kind of wait patiently, unfortunately, as we watch from Eberhardt, who is about a car behind the 77. Right now in front of him is Jason Maines, and is definitely lifting. Got to think that Eberhardt not only is kind of sitting around and waiting, but got to be saving a ton of fuel this way.
Well, that, and okay, as he peeks his nose out here, I was just going to say, like, he's at the back of the pack. When you peek your nose out like that, there's nobody to go with. I mean, he's just got to kind of sit and bide his time here until the 12 can at least get him with up to some other cars that he can draft with, and then he can start moving himself forward. But yeah, he could be trying to stretch this fuel load as much as possible and pick stuff up on the green flag pit stops.
We're getting word that he seems to be lifting on the way in pretty consistently, and that makes me wonder if that's affecting the tires at all here. Or not the lifting affecting the tires, but the racing that we've seen, if they are wearing a little bit, because you were musing a lot about that, thinking that they might give way a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be tire wear on these cars, but you can see now he got himself up into another car, and he managed to get up, so grab a draft from somebody else. So he's going to slowly move himself forward, stay away from that wall.
Looks like he did that successfully. But yeah, so he's got by 1. Now he's trying to get by Josh Suss just at the bottom side there as he slings it into the corner. Watching the front of the pack, though. Still not expecting drivers to be pitting yet. Got at least 8 or 9 more laps. Could be more, depending on if drivers want to try and pit early or see if they can stretch this as far as they can and hope to get a caution to catch out other drivers.
Yeah, I'd really like to wonder too. I guess the other thing to find out about these is, what is it like? What is the temperatures like when they're drafting like this? Because it's definitely going to be an issue and could be the cause of some of them moving around the way they are.
Yeah, you see all those gauges there on the car, and those are not just for show. They really do have to watch them here at Daytona, like you heard Robert mentioning, so that they don't overheat. And if you're following too closely, it's going to be easy to wind up doing that. A little bit of a motion to the inside from Larch, but I don't think that was a serious move to try and pit. But interesting that coming off the corner that you just kind of bobbled down all the way to the yellow line.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there.
Just heard Jacob Manning say over the radar, assuming we don't take tires on the pit stop. So it doesn't seem to be a concern for at least Jacob. I don't know about the rest of them. And Manning is currently, looks like he's in 6th, so he's in that 3rd row back there.
Well, and the thing is you have to okay, so they've got 3 sets of tires. So if I was a crew chief, I would be thinking, okay, we've got 3 sets of tires, so they've figured you can probably do 2 stints on a set of tires on average. So this again is where strategy is going to come in. Are some guys going to do no tire change, just grab fuel, change on the 2nd stop? Are some guys going to change tires and try and pick up, a couple extra spots during the middle? This is the, like you said, feeling out area. We're going to have to see where everybody goes with this.
Coming down around to turn 3. Once again, we creep ever closer to the pit window opening up for drivers.
Wow, Reed just shut the door on Larch. He did not leave. I guarantee you Larch had to lift there because Reed really didn't have enough room when he came down, but good job.
Yeah, good point. This is a big change compared to what we've seen before. And boy, is it ever, because now Crump is ahead and Crump is moving up. So looks like both Crump and Reed are going to jump to the bottom line, but ahead of Larch.
Well, and I'm wondering if they're looking at doing that because they're getting ready to come in for pit stops. Because we are at lap 29 coming, or 28. Oh, we've got a few cars in the pits already.
You're right. That is Eberhardt, Maines, and Jones. These are all 3 teammates, so this is team tactics here. Now, the problem is they've got the leaders coming back around, and I'm pretty certain they're going to lose the lead lap before they get fully up to speed.
Well, as long as they can tuck themselves together and maintain enough speed, everybody ahead of them has to pit as well, so they'll have their chance to catch up. I'm really curious whether or not they took tires. I didn't actually get to see that in the pit stop.
I'd have to go back and check to see if that's what they did. Let me just give a gander at that and find out what the call is on that one. So does this trigger off a few others as well to try and take some tires, take some fuel? And it looks like, yes, 4 tires for all 3 cars that pitted.
Okay, so yeah, team strategy. So you can say, wow, they're just driving right past them, but they're going to have to pit too. But if they can stick in this draft, they'll have enough momentum to be back on where they were when they came up.
Boy, that really shook up the line, though. There's no rhyme or reason there for a while of what was going on between the various cars. So what was very organized for the majority of it has suddenly gotten slightly scattered. It is Crump and Reed, your top 2 at the lead of each column currently.
And here we got more takers in the pits.
That's Luke Smith. Looks like Randall Nichols and Ryan Johnson. Wonder if that's more teammates, just another trio in and out pretty quickly. But again, as we saw before, they're going to get caught by the time they get to the backstretch here with the lead cars all the way up to speed.
Yeah, you got to wonder because most of those cars were in the rear of the pack. If they're not, it's not a strategy of being able to be out there and be able to go a little bit longer on the next stint. Because I expect we're going to see our leaders coming in probably within the next, I would say probably the next 4 to 5 laps. We're going to see them start ducking into the pits.
I think we might want to replay of the 14. He's gotten a penalty in pit lane, so he's now going to go more than a lap down after he had a bad pit entry. So he's able to return to the track, but that goes to what we were talking about before, trying to get the car woed up down to pit lane speed limit in time, and he didn't quite do that, and I think it sent him through the grass.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but again, those kinds of scenarios do happen. It's the first race of the season. Get all the bugs out now, and then you can settle down into the rest of the season.
So there's him exiting pit lane. There's him sitting in pit lane, and here's the pit entry for Josh. Goes to try and get on the binders. Oh, it's not slowing down, locking it up. Into the grass he goes. That is an unsafe pit entry. That's an automatic slam dunk penalty.
Yeah, he didn't have the right line coming into the pit, so he wasn't going to get any grip on those tires to be able to slow that car down, unfortunately.
And he's paid the price dearly. So the bad news is for Brenton Barker, that means that should we get a yellow, then Josh Suss is probably going to be the one most likely to get the wave round. But we do still have Dylan Jones, Everhart, Maines, all a lap down currently. But if we can make it through this pit cycle, then they will go back onto the lead lap, and that will mean that only Josh and Brenton will be drivers a lap down. We're 33 laps in, so now do we start to see the leaders pit in? I'm hearing a lot of chatter over the radio, Robert.
Yeah, I would expect to see them in the next 1 or 2 laps trying to get down, and there they go. There they go in now. So this is going to be crucial entry. Make sure they don't get that speeding penalty. He came in there pretty hot.
Yeah, I think that was the 51. That was Manning or Reed, excuse me, that had that issue. Let me see. Don't see a black flag. So yeah, it looks like he is okay, and he hits his pit stall nicely. Now everybody hurriedly tries to hustle their pit crews along, wanting to see them get them in and out as quickly as possible. Not seeing any takers on 2 tires quite yet. And as they exit out, it looks like Reed will retain the lead, and they're going to get caught up by those that pitted a couple laps ago, Jones, Eberhard, and Maines.
Yeah, the last few are coming in for their pits now. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they blend out here and how they sort everything out.
Yeah, that's it. The last 3, Crump, Tiffany, and Williams. They will most likely re-enter with the main pack. But looks like Reed has gotten himself a little bit over Larch and Robinson. They're catching him back up quickly. They've dropped Barub in the 22. And now up along the high side, here we go. That is Smith steaming along just behind Johnson, who dives around the outside trying to take the lead away, and he's going to be able to do it.
Wow, a little bit of work there for the. Couldn't even see his number, but a little bit of sketchy there.
Drivers coming back on the track. My goodness, Crump, Williams, and Tiffany are miles apart from one another, so they have failed that one. Usually, you want to try and stay with each other after the pit stops. We ride on board with Johnson, currently pushing along Lurch here. Excuse me, being pushed by Lurch. The number 1 up on the high side, Williams. He's got to hook up real fast here.
Yeah, they got to get in that draft. They got to get themselves hooked up, or they're just going to get eaten up. You can see that pack coming at them very, very quickly.
He's trying to dive in there as quick as he can, but he is way off the pace, so I fear Williams might lose touch with the leaders. This has shaken things up a treat, and we're on lap 36 with the pit cycle over. Daniel Eberhard now taking the fastest lap. Doesn't always mean as much here on super speedways, but he must be getting a very good push.
Yeah, always something nice to have in your belt when you see that come up. But yeah, he's motoring here. He's got himself caught up in the draft. I think he might have, like I said, feeling it out, finding out where the car drafts the best, and now he's figured it out, moved himself into the top 10.
So the winner in that pit cycle was Ryan Johnson, pitted 6 laps ago. Wasn't the first of them, but definitely was among the earliest. And he is ahead of Nichols and Larch just behind him. This has been something that we've been waiting for, just to get a feel for how this whole race is going to play out, both in terms of strategy and who can handle these cars, trying to dive it down into pit lane. So far, so good, with only 1 penalty of an unsafe pit entry. Everybody else able to get in and out. But I will say, Rob, this has definitely changed the pecking order.
Yeah, now you're going to see who's got patience and who doesn't. I mean, Reed has been up there in the top front, battling with Larch, and now he's found himself way back in 7th place. Is he going to get aggressive, or is he going to sit back and hope that these guys in front of him pull him along and get him back where he was? Flip a coin.
By the way, that was Barker that we saw kind of peeling off. Obviously, he could go later since he doesn't have as many laps as these guys, and now he's pitting in to take the fuel. And I think I see, Williams, who at one point was in the front pack, has now lost them, and he is a man on his own, a very lonely island in 18th.
Yeah, it's a lonely run around here when you can't catch the draft or you can't hang on to it, because when they come up on you, you just know you got no choice but to let them through.
I think he's got a second pack that is trying to play catch up. Looks like Suss is in there, Tiffany, Manning, and Hansen. They've lost touch with the main group, but they're going to gulp up Trevor Williams, and he'll have another chance to try and team up with some more cars. but I'm pretty sure he still needs a yellow of some sort to catch the lead pack. I don't think that back four are going to be able to work together enough to really run these drivers down, especially considering this race is flying by without any yellows, Robert. We're getting close to halfway.
Yeah, they're really moving here. I think Seth Reed might be getting a little anxious. He's, it looks like he's trying to figure out a way to get around these two guys in front of him, but it's just the opening is not there for him.
No, and it doesn't seem like Reed is happy to be pushed back. He tried to get up to the front early and then made attempts to try and lead either of the columns through the first stint. So as he sits back in third and right on board now with Smith, who's down to the inside. He's on the outside of him right now in the 39, just ahead of Reed. He's the one that is pushing the 69 car just ahead of Randall Nichols, and just playing second fiddle to him, quite literally right now.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the angle in which he's taking the car in front of him. I really think they have to watch their heat, but he's getting a good run into the tri over here now.
Sitting in that third position. Not close enough to push fully right now. He's going to sit behind the 69, at least for a little while. Let's hear some more drivers chatting. And I think Williams is now getting past. If we want to see if he catches this second pack here, he might have a better opportunity. And it looks like he did catch the 35 this time. I think Williams, on the last grab of the rope, has managed not to fall into the chasm.
Oh, and that's always a great feeling if you can do that, but it takes a little bit of the pressure off you. You can relax, take a breath. But these guys up at the front, they need to, I'm sure they're holding on to that wheel pretty tight because the cars are starting to move around a little bit more. And the 51 seems to be getting quite impatient at this point.
So is Seth Reed going to be the match that lights the fire? Will he be the catalyst in all of this to try and jump forward and get the track position back? Right now he's still stuck. And consistently, we've been seeing two lines. Hasn't been a whole lot of three-wide racing here. Daytona is known to be the narrow of Talladega and Daytona, so three-wide I imagine a little bit more risky, Robert, but nobody's
Not
really
necessarily with these cars. Yeah, but I think he's looking to do it. But I think he's really looking in his mirror and checking out that 22 car going, okay, if I go out and make a third line, are you going to come with me? Because if he goes out and makes that third line and nobody goes with him, they're just going to hang him out the track.
So what's it going to take to get that moving? Obviously, teammates are usually a good part of having something like that. But barring that, how does he try to entice him to go up high?
I mean, just take the outside of him, and as he drifts up, drift up with him. Let him know, okay, if you want to go out there, see, you can see him. He's drifting up there, so that he's kind of telling him, if you want to go three wide, I'll go. But then again, he could be just setting him up as well and saying, yeah, go three wide, and I'm going to tuck in underneath you. Again, these guys don't know each other yet, or as far as we know, most of them don't know each other yet. So there's a lot of cat and mouse going on here, I think, right now, as to who's going to do what and who's going to make the first move.
A whole lot of mind games. Who is going to blink? Dylan Jones here, sitting in ninth position, very thoroughly in the thick of the pack. Definitely going to be a little bit vulnerable if we do have a big one, because he's got a few places that he can escape. But so far, so good. And we're going to tick off the halfway mark here at lap 45 in just a moment without any yellows so far.
Yeah, and it's got to be working on the drivers too, because I've driven these kinds of races too, and you think, oh, it's only 44 laps. Hey, when you've been running side by side with somebody, trying not to run into them, not to spin them, and all that, that's a lot of work for 45 laps.
It absolutely is. The concentration must be nerve-wracking out there. Still seeing a few drivers just kind of run up a little bit high. Curious if that is indeed them trying to do something, or if they're maybe trying to cool the cars down a little bit with all the hot air blowing over them farther down in the pack. This pack now goes down to Jason Tanner in 17th, with Darwin Hansen being the leader of the second group. And I can report that the number one has definitely got himself a party now, although he sits in 21st. And Josh Suss is once again our eligible lucky dog.
Yeah, he's rounding the track right now, just praying for a caution. But so far, these guys don't want to give it to him. But, you know, we've hit our halfway mark. Let's see what these guys, I think they'll start playing a little bit naughty now before the next pit stop. But I think after the next pit stop, I think you're going to start seeing guys trying to make moves.
So next pit stop, based on what we saw before, was on lap 34 that many of the cars came in or thereabouts. So expect that to be right around lap 70 or just before that drivers will be pitting in to break it up evenly. That's assuming we stay green, and that's always a big if at super speedways. You really just don't know what's going to happen. And while you can kind of read the tea leaves, I suppose, Rob, sometimes someone can just make that one move that nobody expected, and it all falls apart.
Well, you know, it's a sad thing to say, but I mean, 90% of the reason a lot of people watch Daytona is they want the big one. They want to see that. But, you know, the drivers don't. But yeah, I mean, so far, like I said, everybody's playing nice. But I think after that final pit stop with tire changes and how they come out and how they blend in, I think we're going to see a little bit more because they are starting to step it up just a little bit here.
Yeah, I can attest. I work at a dirt track in the summers, and crashes are what draw people in, no doubt. It's what gets people talking and gets them excited for sure. At least here in the virtual world, there's no life or limb on the line, but certainly some tempers would probably be flared up if someone were to bust out with that. As Eberhardt's kind of weaving around here, showing interest and maybe looking at the middle as someone else in front of him just drifting up to the top side. Is Daniel also feeling antsy at this stage?
Yeah, we're at 50. We're coming on the 50 laps, and the drivers are going to start moving around a lot more. I think they're going to start seeing they need to make positions. They need to move now. And I mean, Earnhardt is, you know, he's been fighting since the drop of the green flag, so I'm sure he's anxious to just move his car forward.
We're talking a little bit about the names that are familiar here. Obviously, we've mentioned a lot of Eberhardt, but Jason Maines also a sort of known name, shall we say, the father of Garrett Maines, e-NASCAR driver. So Jason currently running in 15th position, also showing he's got some knowledge here and just kind of riding at the back for much of this race in that bright orange machine. Let's see if he can do his son proud here in the Rolling Thunder Racing Series.
Yeah, so we got somebody's going to try, or is that a lap car that they're getting around there?
Ooh, good question. Yeah, that's somebody up 3 wide, trying to make it out. I think, is that Eberhardt? I think that's Eberhardt. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, that is. He's ready to go 3 wide, and I think if he gets to Reed, I think Reed will go with him. No, he's going to go around him. But will Reed tuck in behind him if he gets that opportunity?
But look behind there in the 11. Scott Crump is helping. And we got a third car moving up high. That's Jordan Barube. So it's starting to form. Does look like Crump ducked back into the second line briefly. Oh, he can't decide. He's riding the fence.
Yeah, I think if Reed gets up in front of Eberhardt, I think the two of them will move forward. And I think he's looking to do it. He's just not totally sure he wants to.
Oh, and Eberhardt brushing the wall. He's trying to get out of it without ducking down to the car below. Almost gets into the side, I think, of Barube. Yeah, that was the 22 that just about made contact. That sends him all the way to the back. Surely the car cannot be in good condition with the length of time he was up against the safety barrier.
Yeah, he was scrubbing it pretty good, but I don't know if he did a lot of damage to the car because he was more or less straight on the straight wall. But we'll have to see once he gets himself, gathered up, what he can do with the car.
That split things up a little bit too. I think I'm trying to see. Oh, it does look like Matthew Molnar in 11th kind of lost touch. They might be able to reel them back in. He's got a whole string of cars that are kind of equidistant apart behind him, and Eberhardt is at the tail end of it. He's urging him on, hoping that they don't lose touch here.
Yeah, just such a huge momentum loss, and all the drivers having to take evasive action, trying not to get in case he came off that wall. So it's definitely split the field up and changed the field up a little bit, other than our front runners. But you can see him; he's anxious to move back up there and do it all over again.
Remember, we were talking about the 51 quite a bit. He's still third in line on the top row. We're on board with him now, but I think. No, he was back here before, so he hasn't made up any position since we last checked in, and still just kind of riding. Not actually pulling all that close up behind the 39 either. He's leaving a huge opening there.
Well, look at Robinson there. He's up 18 spots. That's a lot. He's got to be very happy with that.
Yeah, he's started in 23rd. And he did not qualify. So he was one of those drivers that took the strategy we talked about, just not setting a qualifying time, starting in the back, letting the race unfold. And so far it's worked out.
Yeah, he can definitely say he made the right call so far. Now, can he keep the can he move himself forward even more, or maybe go after the win as Reed goes really wide out there?
Here's the other question in all of this. If you get a group of people to go with you, we're now in the pit window to be able to make it to the finish. Whoa, a couple cars dodging down below the yellow line. Now, either that's a sign they intend to pit in, or there was something that happened that checked them up.
I mean, they did. Most of them did grab tires. Did they not? If they did, but if for those that didn't, they might be moving around a little bit. That they rear end's getting a little loose on.
Yeah, looking at the pit stop times, it looks like everybody did take tires. But no, it must have been a bit of a checkup that scared them. They all kind of dodged to the side. For those that aren't familiar, that double yellow line at the bottom, you can put the car below it on the back straight, but you cannot gain positions along there. You're not allowed to race underneath that line. So it is there strictly for safety. It is not part of the racing surface.
Yeah, and you don't want to flirt with that line, especially in the corners either. That's right where the transition of going from the banking into the straight line, and it will upset your car really quick. So you're better off just not to flirt with it. You may see some drivers try and gain a little bit by riding that line right on edge, but for the most part, most drivers will stay away from it.
A good point from our producer here that one of our leaders, Ryan Johnson, had a sub 12-second stop. I need to go back and see if he took tires, as here we go. This is going to be an interesting one, as now they start to square up once again at the front of the field.
Yeah, and is it because they're getting ready to pit and they want to come in as close to each other as possible, or are they just getting more comfortable with the car?
I can confirm Ryan did take 2 tires based on the lap times that we're seeing, or pit stop times that we're seeing for those around him, which is essentially the top 7. It looks like they all may have taken 2 tires, and that may be what made the difference.
Yeah, and I'm sure that car is, I mean, you've run 60 plus laps on those tires. I'm sure those tires are starting to give up a little bit in the rear.
And let's not forget, if you run them down to 0%, the tire will blow. So iRacing does not let you just keep running it and take it down to the cords. It will simulate a tire failure if you push it too far. And I don't know what it would take at Daytona to do that, but I would assume it should be possible, since it is going to be wearing it, just not as at high of a rate as some other places.
Well, I would imagine somebody would have to try and probably do like a full 90 laps on a set of tires just to see, where they get to. And again, with this being the first race of the season, have they checked their tires? Maybe drivers are just going to go 2 and 4 and, hope for the best.
Could be. Who has done the research? Who has done their homework here to try and get within the range that they need to get the win? Looking back from Larch for a brief moment, who's leading the bottom line currently in that number 2. We are down to 32 laps to go, so well within the range to make it to the finish, but they are only 25 to 29, no, make that 31 laps in at the farthest on their pit stop stint. So most drivers still have fuel in the tank to go farther if they want to. It all depends on if they feel like gambling on those yellows.
Well, and that's the thing too. Do you want to go further? You're watching the guy in front of you, waiting to see if he's going to dive for the pits, especially if you're on the inside line. You see that inside line starting to slow, you know the leader or the guy in front of you is probably going to dive to the pits.
So far, no takers this time by. Still have 17 cars in the lead group, with Gagliano now the farthest back on them. And unfortunately, that second group has not been able to make inroads. They've lost time since I last looked. It's been about 3 seconds over the last 8 laps or so that they have dropped.
What did I miss? How did Reed get up into second?
Oh, you're right.
And Reed has taken over the lead. Where did he come from?
Good question. I'm checking. And you know what? They pushed. This happened over the course of the last lap. I was looking at other things. They pushed Nichols up to the front of the bottom row, and then the 39 followed him. And now Seth Reed on the top of the high side. Is he going to do likewise and jump down as we get takers at 30 to go for the pit stops?
So this is the teammates again. Gall coming in.
This is Tamer, Maines, Eberhardt, and Jones all pitting. They're going to get overtaken by those that had lost the main pack and carry on. I think that was no tires for all of them, or at least 2 tires. Let me double check here.
Well, I'm just watching Reed again here too, and he's got Crump behind him, and he's had Crump pushing him for a while, so he's probably pretty comfortable with him there as we get more takers coming into the pits.
So responding to these drivers, Maines, Eberhardt, Tamer, Jones, none of them took forward. It was all 2 tires.
Did he make pit entry?
Which car? I'd missed it.
Well, I saw him sliding on our broadcast. I saw him going left and right. He had 2 cars on either side of him.
I think it was Johnson. Yeah, Johnson and Smith, both with big moments there on pit entry. And Johnson does not have a black flag, so it looks like he is going to get away with it.
Well, that's good on him. So these guys are starting to line up single file down on the low line. So I'm expecting we're going to see them come in this lap or the next lap.
Yep, so now we are waiting on 1st through 14th to take pit stops. They still need their service to get to the end. They cannot do it on this fuel. Obviously, we were debating on tires, but we'll see. Here's on board with Eberhardt looking backwards now that they've taken their stop. Currently running in 19th, but they managed to stay together, and that, I think, was job 1, Robert.
Yeah, definitely. And the same thing with the leaders here. I think, you know, they're looking at the first pit stop, too. They actually lost on the first pit stop by when they came in. So I'm wondering if they're trying to just run in a line as much as possible and maybe take this tank down to nearly nothing before they pit and try and open up as much of a gap as they can on the backpack.
None of them pitted that time by. Up to lap 30 for the vast majority of them now, at least on this fuel stint, I should clarify. So they're starting to approach where usually you would start thinking about when you're going to pit in, because you're coming down to just a few laps left of fuel in the car.
Yeah, and now is where the drivers are going to push. They're going to try and see what they can get out of the car. Let's see if they come in on this round.
You know, the other thing in all of this, while we've been clean and green up to now, is we get more drivers pitting in, including Larch, who's been one of our leaders. Oh, and it looks like the 29 of Molnar is going to get hit by Doyle and turn sideways. I did see Mogard as well off into the grass. It looks like, did none of them have, wow, I see no black flags. How is that possible?
I think most of it happened right before the cones, so I think they're okay. But yeah, that was definitely a scary moment.
They're all going to get away with it, but they're going to lose precious time. I don't think they're going to be able to stay with the pack after that critically. Larch is going to emerge just ahead of Robinson and Ballesteros. Those three will be able to hold together, but they've got no other friends out on track. Reed is in now. Looks like Crump is in. So that duo now pitting.
Yeah, they've been working. They've actually been working really well together since the drop of the green flag. I wouldn't be surprised to see them, try and stay hooked up as best as possible to give them something for the end, as we have more cars trying to scream into the pits.
That's Tiffany. Looks like Williams. Oh, did Tiffany just hit the inside wall on the way in though? Or was I seeing things? No, I was seeing things. Excuse me. Looks like 35 is okay. So all clean for this group as they find their pit stalls. Anybody going to overshoot it? Oh, that was a big problem there for Darwin Hansen, who is kind of cockeyed in his pit stall. It's going to make it very difficult for him to get out, but he had to back up just slightly to get himself down into his square. And he's unfortunately still stuck there waiting for the service after everybody has left.
So now Seth has come out and he's still got the lead. If Crump can get to him and they can get some pace up and going, when this pack catches them, they will be able to just kind of sit in front of the pack and say, okay, thank you boys, keep pushing us.
25 to go. That's going to be everybody now having made their stops. Darwin Hansen still in there. I don't see a black flag, so I didn't think he had an unsafe entry, but he's still having to sit stationary. Something must have happened. I wonder if he actually hit the inside of the pit wall and damaged the car.
Yeah, that's a good possibility. He might have damage that's got to be repaired on the car. It's causing him to sit there. So here comes the pack, and you can see they're pretty much up to speed. So I think they're going to do pretty. They're going to try and hold the pack up here. No, they're going to let them go through.
They're going to go along the high side, and up at the front of it, it's Maines and Eberhardt once again.
Look at Eberhardt, man. What a drive by him. I'm sorry to focus on him, but what a drive by him so far. Started at the back, made his way forward, got in the wall, back to the back, and look where he is now.
And that was a brilliant move there by Tamer as well in the 81. He had just enough space on the bottom, dove down in there, and now he is second in line on the bottom line. But the front of the low line is Jason Maines, as you mentioned. Eberhardt is your leader on the high line. So with 23 laps left, who is going to be able to come away with this? And we've seen all this clean and green racing, but when it comes down to the last lap, Robert, I wouldn't bet on it staying green.
I'm going to say, if I was to throw out a commentator's curse, I would say we're going to see a caution within the next 10 laps.
Yeah, this is where it kicks up a notch. And look at them jostling around here, trying to position themselves down across the tri-oval once again. So what does this front pack look like in terms of where it ends? It looks like that goes down to Mogard in, well, he's in 18th, so he's actually a lap down from them. It's Matthew Robinson in 11th. Wow, it has dwindled significantly. Remember, we had all 22 up there for a long time, Robert. Well, only 11. It's been halved.
Yeah, I think some of the drivers that peeled off 1-2 for fuel might have been detrimental to them, or just long pit stops, just not being able to catch a draft coming out of the pits. So many factors here.
Yeah, it's a lot of cars that are either by themselves or just in pairs back behind them, so they've got no hope of trying to work together. Unfortunately, it's all been scattered around lower down in the field. It's come down to fewer cars, probably happier news for these drivers, because the fewer up there at the front, the less unpredictability that they've got to deal with. But that's still a lot of drivers out there with 11 of them. And interestingly, let's see, of the top 10, it looks like about half of them started outside the top 10.
Yeah, that's really interesting to see. I mean, we've got Jones is up 19 spots. We got Smith up 14, Maines up 18. I mean, these guys have done a drive to move forward that far and now be in contention for the win of this race.
Like we said, it's not about the starting position nearly as much here. As long as you keep your nose clean, which these drivers have, and it's been paying off for them. But
well, you can see they're starting to tighten up a little bit more now. The line is cleaner. They're getting a little tighter on each other. So I think they're starting to see these laps start to count down. We're at 20 to go now. Who's going to make the first move, and how are they going to try and make it?
And when do you make it as well? Because 20 laps to go, that's a little bit early, I would think, to try and do something, especially with so few cars up here. Only 11 of them in contention. Maybe 6 or 7 laps to go, try and push forward?
Yeah, I would probably say that. They may be waiting for something to happen in the back of the pack. But yeah, they're tight, and you have to, again, this is the first feel-out race. If you go for it and somebody doesn't go with you, you've gone from, if you're Eberhard, you've gone from first to the back of the pack, and it can really hurt you, even in just 2 corners.
Now, the 12, the 90, and the 3 are currently in first, second, and then either third or fourth, depending on the time, therefore the number 3. But those 3 are teammates, and they've almost kind of locked it down here, Robert. They're almost going to have to start a third lane to get around this crew.
Well, and you got to wonder, what are the team orders? Is it go ahead and race, boys, just don't kill each other, which doesn't always go well? Or are they going to say, sit where you are, let's take a win, and I'll give you the win next week? Again, always that feel-out first race as to what's going to happen.
I wonder if the 81, which is Tamer, he's the second one on the bottom there, he's not part of that group. Could he try to push the leader ahead when he doesn't want to, maybe? And see if he can open things up that way, or do you think that's not possible?
Oh no, I think it's totally possible, and I think, like, if you look at the gap between the outside line and the inside line, I think he's just waiting for that gap to open up enough, and he'll split them.
And it looks like
come right up in the middle of them and get a side draft off both cars and just shoot in front of them. That would be. If it was me, that's what I'd be waiting for till when about maybe 2 to go.
Barker and Suss that are just in front of them that we've been seeing from time to time and being caught at a high rate of knots. So yeah, will they offer that chance to kind of break this up now in front of the lapped traffic and maybe give an opening finally to those that are not part of that team who is controlling the race right now? The Tailgaters 225 has been green all the way to now, but for how much longer with only 16 laps to go?
Well, and Tamer has to be worried about Larch. Again, we're talking about a driver who's led a lot of laps or been on the lead pack in the front of one of the packs, who is now, sitting in 5th place. Is he going to make a move? Is he going to try and push somebody up and out?
There we go, going by the lapped cars who are staying out to the outside, trying to hold low. This has been very orderly up to this point, and no, it is not going to offer a chance. Although the 77 does drift out into the outside wall, but by that point, the front pack is gone.
Well, and just overall, this entire race has been just some great racing, great respectful driving by everybody. I mean, I'd love to see it go green all the way to the checkered flag, and if they keep it this rate, they're going to do it. Which, kudos on them for the first race of the season.
Mighty impressive for a new group racing together, for sure. And the 12 of Jason Maines starting to move ahead just a little bit. It does seem like at times that 81 is trying his hardest to just get him far enough forward that he can find some daylight. One car going below the yellow line, maybe trying to take some clean air on him just behind us as we ride with Luke Smith now.
Yeah, and you can see he's not really getting right up in behind, who's he behind? He's behind Jones. So he's not getting right up in behind him, but, he's got a little bit more space there, but I think he's just biding his time when maybe he can get a run and create a third lane and get around him.
Ooh,
a little close there.
That's Reed.
Yeah, there's Reed. He's had enough.
Reed and Crump are trying to make the high line work, but there's only 2 of them. They need, I think, a little bit more than that to make this work. Look at how narrow it is as they ride just between the wall and that second row.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to need anybody else to make this work. Like I said, they've been hooked up pretty much since the green flag drop. They know what each other is going to do. You can see him. Once he gets up on them, they have an incredible amount of forward. They just can't seem to maintain it coming out of the corner.
They're trying their darndest, and now they've got a third helping them. So it's almost even between the 3 rows. You've got 3, 4, and 4. And it's unfortunately a prime number, so we're never really going to get it evenly split between them. But it's certainly looking like they might be able to do something here. Like you said, they've been creeping up on Eberhardt's 90 there in the middle.
Yeah, now everybody's starting to get racy. They're coming down to 10 to go. Everybody wants to be up front. This is where it's going to get a little scary for some of these drivers, especially Eberhardt in the middle.
Oh, the 11 scrapes the wall. We're 4 wide behind him. That's going to break up that high line, unfortunately, and he falls all the way to the back. Just in front of him, that was Matthew Robinson, who was in that group. He had to give up the ghost and get out of the way so that he didn't get collected. And Seth Reed now stands on his own.
Yeah, he lost his best friend. He's just got to hope he can catch him back up and use him again. That was really loose.
He brushed the wall, I think, actually, there, coming off of 4, and has dropped back. He's going to pick up with Mogard, I believe. Yeah, so it looks like he won't necessarily lose this front group, but this is definitely changing in complexion. The nature of this race has definitely shifted.
Yeah, they're definitely getting a little bit more aggressive here. They're trying to push the car to the absolute limits to try and move forward and be at the front of one of these packs. And Tammer, like I said, he's getting impatient, and I think Larch is trying to get a move done. Like I said, he led a lot of laps. I'm sure he's not happy with where he's sitting right now.
Don't forget, if we come down to 4 laps to go and we get a caution, that'll take us into overtime with the green-white checkers. That's the point of no return. But right now we are okay. If we get a yellow here, we'll come back to green flag racing. It's just when it gets ever closer, we'll have to start going over what will happen if we have to extend this race to try and get it to finish under green. And so far, we haven't even had a single yellow in this whole race. So there's a good chance that when we do, it'll be the one yellow that does extend the race.
Yeah, good possibility of that. And yeah, like I said, I mean, great on them being able to run with new drivers, maybe people they don't know, and having the faith to be able to go the full 90 laps with green flag running and green flag pit stops. That's added on to it for sure.
9 laps to go now. So under that 10 mark, and it is still, I think, about 10 drivers now in the main group. Do they still have the 11? Hansen kind of tacked
no, they
himself
kind of
on.
dropped them, yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like, yeah, it's only 10 now from what I can see. So they did lose Crump in that 11, who's trying his best to push on Mogard, as I mentioned, a lap down, and not a part of this, but it looks like he may have lost his opportunity. He does need a yellow if he wants to win this race at this stage, or he needs everybody to wreck in front of him, which usually means a yellow, but we might not get that if it's on the last lap with 1 to go. For now, we've still got a few more before we reach that stage, because now it's 8 to go.
Yeah, and Reed and Crump kind of gave it away, so they're saying, showing the fact that if you can get out on that third line and not be by yourself, you can definitely make a move. So, coming up to 7 to go, I would say another couple laps, we're probably going to start seeing the moves. Or then again, like I said, first race, they may all just be content with where they are.
I thought Crump had lost the group, and he's just managed to grab them now. Crump is there in the 11. It's going to be 11 cars once again, appropriately, for that number 11 machine as he tries to get back up. Now, did he learn anything from that first attempt? Is he going to try anything different? Will he still hook up with the same cars?
I mean, if you can hook up with who you're comfortable with and you can move forward, I would definitely shoot for that. But he's coming up on the 1 car. Or is that the 51? Yeah, he's coming up on the 51. He knows what he can do. He's not afraid to push him.
Top 10 haven't really been doing much these last couple laps. Are we seeing the calm before the storm, Robert? Is this where everybody's trying to set themselves up and waiting for the moment to strike? Because this seems eerily calm suddenly.
Well, there's only one phrase that comes to mind, and that is, this is Daytona. You never know.
Good point. Down to 6 laps to go now as they cross the line once again. Eberhard and Main still your front row at the top. Doesn't necessarily mean those are going to be your drivers in contention for the win, but they have been controlling this race up to now. And as we said, they are teammates, but we don't know if there are team orders of who's going to win. And here we go. Third line forming up on the outside.
I think it might be a little bit early, but we'll have to see how it unfolds. I mean, Reed's going to make himself a part of this.
And we got a caution. And that was not this front group. I'm trying to find it. Oh, my goodness. It looks like Ryan Johnson turned around. And this was a bad push at the front of the second pack. The 35 of Bo Tiffany gets turned by the 1. And that's what causes our first yellow. Very much on the edge on if we're going to be able to get restarted.
Yeah, I could see just got a little too close and got in that left rear quarter panel and just spun him around.
So a few cars getting some bumps and bangs, but otherwise not the worst hits that I've seen. And this is going to pack everybody back up. Mogard is going to get your lucky dog for what it's worth.
Oh, the 9 and the 22 got a piece of that. The 38 got a piece of that. 22 is running well too. I believe he was actually up there in the top 10, was he not? Or he's coming. He was at one point.
Here we go. Watching on board from Jordan. Oof, man. Some of those cars lucky they didn't get tilted up and blown over here.
Yeah, he was just a pinball. He was along for the ride there.
All right.
So now this is going to make things interesting.
And Maines has caught the pace truck here. So they are behind that. He's making motions like he might pit, but I think he's faking it. Yeah, absolutely. As he comes back onto the racing line. Anybody at the back maybe going to risk it if they've still got tires left? Yep.
We might have a few takers. Yeah,
it's Barker.
I can't see it with 5 to go.
Oh, no, we do. Williams is on the lead lap. Manning, although I think these were the drivers involved in the wreck, were they not?
Yeah, 22, the 9. Yeah, they were all involved in that wreck.
So no, that's not a strategy call. That's them just trying to repair these cars. We'll still have to wait to see if we will get restarted. I think we will. Looks like Jason Maines might be a little bit concerned about his fuel. He's riding on the apron. He's allowed to do that during the cautions, and that is a fuel-saving technique, no doubt. So maybe he's worried that we might be going into overtime anyways.
Well, it's actually twofold running on that. Running there is it actually does help your tires because you're not in that lean of the car wanting to make its way down the track. So he's helping his tires a little bit, but yeah, definitely probably trying to save fuel. I'm not sure if he's been shutting the engine off, what he's doing, but he knows he's going to get overrun here if he doesn't get a good launch off the green flag.
For this race to restart, we need the lights on the truck to go off, 2 laps to go or more. So if they go off this time, then yes, we will get a natural green-white checkers on this one, but it won't count towards our green-white checkers. We still get 1 attempt. That said, the way this works is if the yellow comes out with 2 to go, or more than that, then they go to yellow and they go to overtime. If the yellow tries to come out after the white flag has been flown, it will not be flown. The race is official once that white flag is out, and it is a race to the line, old school style. So it basically is whoever gets there first, if we don't wreck by the time we reach the yellow flag. Here we go. As Williams just got an EOL penalty. That's what we saw on our screen. Watching to see if the lights stay on. Lights are off. We're going to get 2 laps to the finish here.
Well, we're hoping for 2 laps to the finish.
Yes. So to explain how the green-white checkers work for those not familiar, if we do get the yellow here on that return lap to racing, we will go into overtime. They will regroup behind the pace car, and they will be given 2 laps to try and finish the race. If the yellow comes out on the first lap back, then the race will end fully. If the drivers make it to the white flag, they will finish under green. They only get 1 try at that, so this isn't going to be a case of multiple attempts. That's if we get a yellow this time by, so watch out for that, because the race is not over if we get a wreck on this restart.
Yeah, everything old school here, so it's definitely, and I mean, the drivers in the front have gotten there, and I mean, they've got, can't even remember, I've lost track if they changed tires.
We saw 2 tires stop for almost the entire top of the field. Yeah, I don't think anybody took 4 tires on that last run. Maybe Dylan Jones, who looked like he had a longer stop.
Yeah, so it's going to be what are the inside tires on this car like on the takeoff.
Good point. Yeah, we haven't seen this yet, and the drivers haven't got to experience that yet. Old tires on a restart. I'm glad you brought that up, because I hadn't even considered that they're going to be into uncharted territory.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even with us not knowing what the wear indicator is, I mean, you got to accept the fact that there is wear on those tires, after running 60 laps. So, who's got what as they come around here.
Here we go. Here's the restart, and the green flag is out as they accelerate away. Single file restarts for these old Gen 4 cars, and it's a good one for Jason Maines. By the way, an EOL penalty for Manning as well for being involved in that wreck, along with Williams. But look at him, switching down to the bottom. Maines did not like the look of Smith starting to accelerate up to his inside.
Yeah, I just got down there and said, wow, you got such a good run, you can push me and keep me out front. But Eberhardt's getting, there they go.
And I don't think we're going to stay green for long. They're trying to save it. More cars getting into one another. Somehow it's still green. One car getting almost pushed up into the air. We are still green.
They're still wrecking back there. I don't know if we'll have to see what goes on.
I can't believe that didn't bring out a caution. Nobody got turned sideways on the racing line. They let it run. Here we go. White flag. We are going to finish under green with the official stated laps of 90 laps. And it is Eberhardt leading. Nichols second. Maines in third.
Yeah, Eberhardt's got a good run, good push from him on the outside. But, 12's got the inside line, 39 coming up on him. Let's see what they do here.
Reed's still in this too. Don't forget about, he's going to give a big push up along the outside. No friends for Eberhardt. He falls backwards. Up to the front now goes Randall Nichols. Didn't expect him to be one of those in contention for the victory, but he was hovering around the front. He starts to lose out now. Eberhardt trying to hook up with anybody. No, he gets turned. He's going to be in a huge wreck as he gets turned over and down to the line. Maines with a nose ahead is going to win the opening round of the Rolling Thunder Racing Series. The Tailgaters 225 sees an incredible finish come down to 200ths of a second.
As Eberhardt's still going in and hitting the wall and sliding on his roof. Feel bad for him. Reed got caught up in that. Actually, I think it was Reed that spun him.
Eberhardt made it across the finish line upside down, and he scored in 7th. Not the finish he was looking for, but a spectacular one, no doubt. Maines, Nichols, and Smith will finish on the podium. Just an unbelievable end to this race. And after what was a very calm majority of it, it just exploded. So let's watch one more time for this last lap and try to analyze what exactly happened here after we see them celebrate here in a moment, as Maines getting some of his teammates congratulating him, and he comes up to the tri-oval to burn it down. So there's some questions as to why that did not bring out the yellow on that second to last lap. but the admin's saying they are not throwing.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too.
Yeah, they're not going to throw yellows. It is all up to iRacing on whether or not a caution flag comes out. So there.
Well, I think that's one of the things iRacing changed. If it's on the back stretch and it's not going to impede, it gives that extra time to be able to not throw the caution. Just like real life, actually, now.
Absolutely. So here we go. Last lap. Talk us through this, Rob, because so much was going on in this situation.
Well, Eberhardt was trying to block. He knew the 69 was going to get a run on him, and then, you know, he's got him outside, but the 69 just got a huge run out of the turn, and Reed went in behind him, tucked him behind him. He's trying not to lose as much as he's losing, and you can see there he's kind of lost it, but I think he gets back up on Reed here, and Reed just tries to close the door, and there's just no more room. Yeah, he's got to avoid the 39, and there was just no room to get in front of Reed there, and that just spun him. 39 was lucky he didn't get into the back of them and take him further back in the field, but you know, good third place finish for him. So I think for the most part, most guys will be happy, but there's going to be a couple upset guys on the track.
No doubt. Yeah, Eberhardt thought there was a gap in there, and that it just closed in time. And from there, sparks fly. He sees the track, but on the wrong side of the windshield.
Hey, as long as you cross the finish line, it counts. So, you know, oh, look at that. Just, he got pinned by another car, a couple of rolls, and over on the wall. I tell you, he had a hell of a race.
He did. I'm sure it'll be one he'll be talking about for some time. As we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
Bo Tiffany in the 35.
Ryan Johnson getting a big push on the
Lap gets set by Ryan Perrone. And there is Rideout sideways entering pit road.
Green flag is out. We're underway from Alabama.
You're going to see that. Yeah, just got down too low.
Spencer Brown has a shot at the win, but Luke Smith is going to win barely at the line.
Checker flag waves. Daniel Eberhardt wins the cash money race for Rolling Thunder.
Make it through the mess. Who's going to win this $300? It looks to be Michael Miller, the winner of $300 at the Speed Designs 212.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. A green race here for 90 laps came down to a caution at the end, throwing it into chaos, and Jason Maines emerged from the smoke to come out the winner. Randall Nichols was second behind by 0.02 of a second, and Luke Smith couldn't quite get there in time to take it away from either of them. Drew Ballesteros, not a name we mentioned a whole lot at the front, but managed fourth ahead of Scott Crump. Reed only sixth today as he pushed Eberhardt across the line upside down, and Daniel had to take seventh. Jared Morgan was P8, and Matthew Robinson was ninth, with Bo Tiffany rounding out your top 10. What about the rest of the field here, Robert?
On to 11th place, we got Trevor Williams, 12th, Dean Gagliano, Jacob Manneming in 13th. We saw a lot of him at the beginning of the race. He dropped back near the end there. Jason Tamer, another driver who got to run up front, in 14th place. Michael Larch in 15th. Ryan M. Johnson in 16th. Dylan Jones in 17th. And then we have Jordan Barube in 18th. Lane Doyle and Matthew Molnar in 20th place.
Suss, Hansen, and Barker, unfortunately, were multiple laps down, each getting in trouble in their own unique way throughout this race, so weren't really a part of the race there by the end. But Jason Maines definitely was. Let's talk to him about what it was like trying to keep ahead of everybody hungry for the victory. Jason, it looked like, and we expected a lot of aggressive moves there at the end. What do you think made the difference that kept you at the top?
I mean, just positioning. That's what it came down to. We did a little strategy at the beginning, and, it looks bad, because you're basically reversing what everybody else is doing, but we were able to still execute on pit road and be in the main draft pack again. So then that just allowed us to flip that strategy on the last one. And once the tires worn, getting around people on the top was so hard, because some people were driving harder than others and melting their fronts. And then you get on the outside of them, you're at risk. So the track position definitely at the end of the race is what you needed to have.
Now, we usually often talk in racing about drivers having famous fathers. You have a famous son. Is Garrett cheering you on, or is he involved in any way in your races?
In this race here, he's not. He was down with his brother at the kart place this evening there in some type of tournament down there. But, some of the stuff when I did some of the road to pro and stuff, he would spot for me. And it's pretty neat, because that's the reason I got back in the sim stuff. I started a long, long time ago before he was ever born. I raced with Dale Jr. when he was like 12. So, and then I got off of it for many, many years and got back on after getting in a bad accident racing. And so I got back on here, and it allowed me to spend time with him that way. So he's taught me a lot now. And, he just spends a lot of time on here. So it's all about throttle control, and you're thinking the whole time. That's plate racing on for sure.
It's so cool to see that way that you two can connect, and also for you to rediscover the love for it. Now, this is obviously a bit of an outlier track, with it being a super speedway. Can you repeat this performance as we head on into the season?
Yeah, I think, the other tracks, I normally don't run this car. So I think the other tracks will actually benefit me more than the plate track does, just because, I'm not a person that likes to, I won't say likes, but I don't drive super aggressive unless somebody's done that to me, and that plays on a car that shows off tire wear. So that's what I'm looking forward to, because, a lot of the stuff you get into today, it's, you're running hardcore the whole time, and by time the tires fall off, either somebody wrecks or you're starting pit stops. This car, you run hard, you'll pay the price. So I think that's going to be a benefit, but we'll see.
Well, again, congratulations. Thank you for the excitement there at the end, and hopefully we'll get to see you at Las Vegas.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys putting on an awesome broadcast. Look forward to going back and looking at it. Got to thank our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I got to thank MCU Bodies, Lennox Industries, Bradley Mechanical, and Melting Force for everything they do for us on here, and my teammates working with me there. And we executed with Daniel and Dylan there working together with us. Came out really good. And like I said, thank Justin for putting on. It was a super good race. I mean, that's what it's about. That was a lot of clean racing.
Absolutely, considering how long it went green. That was Jason Maines, our winner in the number 12 here today. But I believe Robert has caught up with Randall Nichols, who is just behind him at the line.
Randall, great racing today. So run us through that last lap when you decided to pull out outside Eberhard and try and get yourself that win.
Well, I knew the 51. There's a couple times during the race where he kept trying to get that third one to work, and I raced with him in the past on the team. So I kind of figured that if I pull out, he might actually go with me, and luckily that's exactly what happened. So I want to thank Seth for going with me right there and getting past Daniel. Because everybody on iRacing that races NASCAR knows Daniel Eberhard is not someone to go toe-to-toe with at Daytona by yourself.
Yeah. Now, one of the things we were talking about is what was the tire wear like on these cars on that final restart when we did get actually one caution in this entire race?
So I noticed in practice that we ran like 15, 20 laps and came into pit, and the left side tires were, they were immaculate, just 100% across the board. So I kind of knew that with pitting, I can't remember how many laps ago it was, but I wasn't too really concerned with tire wear, honestly, with the way the left sides were wearing out this during the race tonight. they're pretty good. They held in there.
Yeah, it was one of our talking points is we're not sure what the tire wear is at Daytona on a car like this because these are pretty heavy cars to begin with. But a great drive today and a great opportunity to take the win in the first race of the season. How do you see yourself going into Vegas?
I feel pretty good. Ran a couple races there with the Gen 4, and it's good. Like you really got to drive the car off the right rear, but you also need to have complete car control. So I like racing Las Vegas. It's very bumpy in 1 and 2, and you gotta stick with the car, otherwise you're gonna go right up the track, and it's gonna make for a long race.
Well, again, great racing today. Is there anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go today?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone that tuned in to the first race of the Rolling Thunder series, and hopefully the rest of the season is as good as tonight was.
All right. Well, congratulations on your P2. Enjoy the rest of your night.
All right. Thanks, guys. You too.
And then finally in third, it was Luke Smith, also in that pack of cars there at the end. Luke, third place, but you almost look committed to pushing Jason to the win. Did you have any aspirations to try and duck out and steal it from him?
Well, I got side drafted there, and I got pulled back a little bit on that final start, and the original intention was to try and push him out and then try and get above him. But when I got side drafted out there, I was like, well, I got no shot now. So I tried to, I like, at that point, it was kind of committed to pushing him. And then they wrecked there coming off of turn 4. And I was like, well, I can try and get up with Randy, who I've been with all race. But I had no hope. I'm just glad that I didn't get involved in another one of those wrecks.
Yeah, I mean, those last 2 laps, we went all race completely green. And then suddenly at the very end, not only did we get that caution, but last 2 laps saw multiple accidents that somehow didn't bring out the yellow. Did you expect that the way that, super speedway racing usually goes, or because it was so green, did you kind of figure everybody's going to be able to hold it together?
I knew coming down to the end there was going to be some cautions for some guys pushing a little too hard and stuff like that, and the cars got really tight once the tires started to wear out. So I knew that somebody was going to push it a little too hard, and I know that right before that first caution came out, Randy and I both jumped up to the third line there, and we were expecting ourselves to potentially be a caution because of jumping up there, but it was for a shot to win. But yeah, it was kind of just biding time until the cautions came out, and then see where you get put on the restart and see what situation you can put yourself in.
Now, next week, we're going to be heading over to Las Vegas. Are you looking forward to taking the Gen 4 to that track? Do you feel like you're going to feel comfortable in that combo?
Yeah, well, get a little bit of seat time in practice and do a little bit of practice throughout the week. I feel pretty confident. I really like Las Vegas. It's one of my better tracks, so I feel comfortable there. I feel like I can do some damage.
All right. Well, best of luck when we head off to the desert, and congratulations on kicking off the season with a podium.
Thank you.
All right. That was Luke Smith in the number 39, taking P3 here today, up from 19th on the grid as well. So excellent job from him. That's a big thank you, of course, to the Rolling Thunder Racing Series for bringing us on for coverage, as well as our sponsor, Tailgater Sports Bar and Grill, for sponsoring today's race. And thanks to the team today, Robert, Ryan, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store, which we've got listed on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Like we said, next race, Las Vegas, Sunday, October 8th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. But be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
Bo Tiffany in the 35.
Ryan Johnson getting a big push on the
Lap gets set by Ryan Perrone. And there is Rideout sideways entering pit road.
Green flag is out. We're underway from Alabama.
You're going to see that, yeah, just got down too low.
Spencer Brown has a shot at the win, but Luke Smith is going to win barely at the line.
Checker flag waves. Daniel Eberhardt wins the cash money race for Rolling Thunder.
Make it through the mess. Who's going to win this $300? It looks to be Michael Miller, winner of $300 at the Speed Designs 212.